Hello, I'm Rob Quinn. For the last 20 years, it's been my privilege to be the Executive Director of Scholars at Risk. Welcome to our virtual conference. In this session, we'll mark the formal release of SAR's annual monitoring report, Free to Think 2020. The report is a key part of Scholars at Risk's advocacy for greater protection for scholars, students, universities, and academic freedom worldwide. I hope you have a chance to read the report and to share it with your colleagues and networks. We will also present Scholars at Risk's Courage to Think Award to Rahil Dawood of the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region in China. We're honored to be able to recognize her struggle and the struggle of so many scholars, students, and others. Thank you for being here to be a witness to her story. And throughout the session and this virtual conference, we will be closing out our celebration of Scholars at Risk's 20th year. We don't celebrate the need for our work, and indeed, over that time, the need for our work has only grown. But we do celebrate the fact that we, as a community, have come together across borders, time zones, nationalities, cultures, ethnicities, religions, ages, identities, and professional disciplines, come together to help threatened colleagues, come together to demand accountability, come together to promote academic freedom as an essential driver of quality research, teaching, and discourse, come together to stand up for the principles that ideas are not crimes, and critical discourse is not disloyalty, it is a scholar's responsibility. In this session, you will hear from different voices in our network, from board members to network members and our International Advisory Council, to faculty coordinators, to student advocacy partners, to SAR staff, and of course the scholars we have had the privilege to serve and to get to know, to call colleagues and friends. I want to thank all of them. I want to thank our sponsors, our partners and network members who make Scholars at Risk's work possible. Please, if you're able to contribute to help us sustain and grow this work, every gift matters. I want to thank all of you for being here. We have nearly 800 registrants to the conference from over 62 countries and at least 9 time zones. At a time when pandemic makes it harder to be together in person, your being here shows that you care. You know that we need to be connected, perhaps now more than ever. That is what the scholars we serve get from our network. That is what all of us get from being part of this network, connection. So thank you for being part of the network. Thank you for sharing your campuses and faculties and students with our community. Thank you for hosting scholars, for leading and participating in advocacy seminars and clinics, for sending letters and tweets, for attending and hosting workshops and SAR congresses, for doing what you do to make our work possible. Just over 20 years ago, one faculty member sent one email containing one single good intention. With your help, we have been acting on that good intention ever since. Thank you.
It began with a single good intention. Dear University President, I was reminded yesterday of how often university professors and students, and I suppose intellectuals more generally, become particular targets of human rights abuses. I thought too of the singularly important role that European refugees played in the intellectual development of our university in the 1930s and 1940s. Then I thought with some regret that there was little chance today of equally bright professors from Algeria or Kenya or East Timor or Bosnia or any other part of the world under intellectual or political threat finding their way to our campus. But I wonder if our university couldn't do more to increase the chances of this happening. If one of our dearest cherished values is academic freedom, and if we also pride ourselves on being one of the world's greatest universities, Couldn't we make it possible for professors in exile to come to teach here, at least temporarily, at least as a first place to catch their breath and think what to do next?
I got several threats warning me to be silent.
I had to stop teaching.
The classroom was no longer safe.
After I presented my work at the international conference,
I was charged with acting against national security
And spreading propaganda against the regime.
I have had my teaching materials confiscated.
I had my phone and movements put under surveillance.
I have received written calls.
when you begin researching these kind of issues, you know that you start to risk on yourself and you accept that.
Soldiers broke into my house. I was absent, fortunately.
A couple of months later, they repeated.
If we misutilize, you can be sure that you will get to on the third time.
When somebody threatened to kidnap my son, that was the turning point.
When I ended up at my past campus, it changed my life.
I was fortunate that the world took note of my case. We saw how people could trust each other.
It gave me oxygen.
This opportunity is literally a lifeline.
To return to my career.
To be silent for a scholar, that's worse than that.
I think I owe it to my fellow scholars to tell you that I was right.
I was lucky.
Words can never describe my gratitude.
To support.
Advocate for.
And protect other scholars, just like myself, for giving me the chance to live in freedom.
June 2000, we resolved that there should be established a permanent network of universities, colleges, and centers of research, study, and teaching. This network should dedicate itself to protecting the fundamental human rights of scholars and others engaged in the community of ideas. This network should devote its greatest energies to assisting scholars facing the most grave threats to their being and to their profession by providing positions of personal and professional sanctuary, such as to assist scholars in resuming their careers. This network should, in addition, charge itself with raising respect for academic freedom, higher education, scholarship, and the free exchange of ideas, and with promoting advocacy in defense of academic freedom and the human rights of scholars. This network should be known as
Scholars at risk.
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 Scholars at risk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Lisa Anderson, and on behalf of the Board of Trustees of Scholars at Risk, I'm pleased and proud to be able to join with Rob and the other remarkable representatives of the network with us today to welcome you to this celebration of 20 years of extraordinary service to the world of knowledge, inquiry, and learning. We in the Academy like to think that we're risk takers. We pride ourselves on challenging conventional wisdom, on pushing the frontiers of knowledge, on fostering new generations of intrepid, curious, and imaginative students who will contribute constructively to building the future. But honestly, most of us don't know what risk actually is. Perhaps we think we'll annoy the department chair, or irritate a journal editor or book reviewer, or even provoke a controversy in our professional association. We don't consider the possibility that simply because of what we teach or argue, because of our hypotheses or our findings, we might lose our positions or our passports. Our books might be confiscated by armed militias, our decades of research torched in book burnings, our students warned away, our families threatened. But it happens all the time. I don't know when I first realized this. Perhaps it was decades ago when I met with a colleague who asked that we go to a seaside restaurant, not because it was a beautiful setting, although it was, but because the white noise of the waves crashing on the beach made it hard for the microphones to pick up our conversation. Or when, as a foreigner, I had access to the room in the university library labeled forbidden books and prohibited to local scholars. What was in there, they asked me. The answer was a disappointment. Nothing titillating or even out of the ordinary, just the same books they'd read in classes years ago, now out of favor. Or more recently, when the father of a student studying in New York got a call from the intelligence service at home asking why his daughter was tweeting about books about the country she'd found in their university library. Tweeting about university library books, or simply wanting to read them, or just talk about them with a colleague, should not be dangerous. But in too many places in the world, it is. This is why Scholars at Risk is important. And it is not simply because there are, in fact, scholars at real risk every day of losing their work, their positions, their lives. But Scholars at Risk is also important for all of us, because our own work is diminished when our colleagues are hindered or thwarted in theirs. We are each other's teachers and students. We build on the work of those who went before us, and we know that those who succeed us will also supersede us. That's the point. There is no peer review without peers. There is no accumulation of knowledge without a community of scholars. The Scholars at Risk network is a small flicker of light in what often seems like a vast, dark, shadowy world of indifference and cruelty. But it illuminates the way to lives of candid debate and provocative inquiry, of knowledge production, not only for the individual scholars it serves, but for the universities they strengthen and for the vocation itself. We are all beneficiaries of this principled advocacy of academic freedom and of the protection of those who practice it. Indeed, perhaps the greatest risk we face is not recognizing how important this advocacy, protection, and learning is to us all. That danger is why we must celebrate SAR's decades of tireless work and join in magnifying and strengthening the enlightenment it represents. Once again, it is a privilege to be with you all. Thank you.
My name is Viviana Fernandez, and I am the Assistant Director at the Human Rights Research and Education Center at the University of Ottawa and Chair of Scholars at Risk Canada. It is a pleasure to speak to you on behalf of the International Advisory Committee of Scholars at Risk, where I have served for 4 years. The committee is made up of representatives of the various national SAR sections, partnered networks, and associations. The importance of academia and its contributions to inform public policy has been challenged in recent years, and the current pandemic has only increased the visibility of the dynamics at play. We have witnessed an erosion of the position of science in policy debates and the replacement of evidence-based decision-making with populist ideologies in developed and developing countries alike. War, endless conflict, and exclusionary measures are putting at risk the future of entire countries where children and youth are unable to receive an education and where scholars are unable to participate in the free flow of people and ideas in their disciplines. We know that many scholars live in fear of the consequences of doing their work, of questioning existing policies, decisions, and measures. We receive reports from scholars who face social harassment for their research or become targets of state repression. We hear from scholars who end up imprisoned, prosecuted, or worse, while others are forced to seek refuge in foreign countries. We see too many violent attacks on higher education communities and attempts to curtail student expression. And we suspect that many scholars resort to self-censoring to preserve their livelihoods, protect their lives, or their families. Tracking these attacks and raising awareness of country situations through the Academic Freedom Monitoring Project and the Free to Think reports is vital to the network's work. We are grateful to the member institutions and the partners who participate in this initiative, as they help us understand the scope of the problem and document what is happening to scholars worldwide. Last October, such efforts informed the first report on academic freedom introduced at the United Nations General Assembly by the Special Rapporteur on the promotion and protection of freedom of expression and opinion. The report highlights the special role played by academics and academic institutions in democratic societies. It notes that without academic freedom, societies lose one of the essential elements of democratic self-governance, the capacity for self-reflection, for knowledge generation, and for a constant search for improvements of people's lives and social condition. These and other advocacy actions undertaken or supported by the network are important steps, but there is much more to do. As individual members and country sections of Scholars at Risk, we are committed to work in solidarity with the global community to protect and advance academic freedom and to foster inclusive and democratic societies. We hope that more institutions across the world will join this movement and contribute to strengthen and enrich our community. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Claire Robinson, and I am the Advocacy Director at Scholars at Risk. Every day, I have the honor to partner with SAR members, faculty, students, with you in our efforts to protect and strengthen higher education. Scholars at Risk's advocacy is grounded in data, in facts. We monitor and report on attacks on higher education. By documenting these attacks and bringing them to light, we rally together to demand protection for academic freedom and for everyone's freedom to think. SAR's Academic Freedom Monitoring Project involves faculty, students, and NGO researchers around the world, researching and publishing reports of attacks. These reports help us develop a greater understanding of the scale and nature of threats to higher education communities. Today, we introduce the result of that work, Scholars at Risk's report, Free to Think 2020. This report covers monitoring project data gathered over the past year and highlights 341 attacks of higher education communities in 58 countries and territories. These range from COVID-related Zoom bombings of academic association meetings to actual bombings on campuses. The report and this conference discuss the extensive damage to Yemen's higher education space following years of war, a clampdown on dissent in India, and continued wrongful imprisonment of Uyghur scholars in China. Free to Think 2020 examines efforts by political actors to outlaw specific areas of study, as in Romania, where Parliament voted to ban gender studies. Free to Think 2020 highlights violent attacks on campus communities. On October 8th, 2019, in Afghanistan, students attended class at Ghazni University's Faculty of Arts. A bomb exploded, injuring at least 21 students. Free to Think 2020 shines a light on scholars and students who are imprisoned for their academic work and activism. On February 7th, postgraduate student Patrick George Zaki returned to Egypt from University of Bologna in Italy to visit his family. Egyptian authorities arrested and interrogated him about his activism and about his time in Italy. He remains in prison today. Free to Think 2020 examines pressures on scholars raising alarm about the pandemic. In Venezuela, on March 9th, a governor ordered a criminal investigation into Dr. Freddy Pachano, director of the School of Medicine at the University of the State of Zulia, after he raised concerns over suspected COVID cases. To avoid arrest, Dr. Pachano fled the country, and Zulia became an epicenter of the virus in Venezuela. These attacks chill entire academic communities, undermining research, teaching, and discourse that benefits all of society. Academic freedom is first and foremost about promoting quality in research, teaching, and discourse. When academic freedom is attacked, these functions of higher education suffer, and everyone loses out. This loss matters every year, but perhaps it matters even more this year, when our researchers and universities are on the front lines of helping us get through this pandemic. We must work together to protect them. Free to Think 2020 would not exist without the contributions of faculty, students, and NGO partners who contribute time and expertise to developing the data. Thank you to all of you involved. Thank you also to the many partners who use the monitoring project data to demand accountability and greater protection. Faculty and students in SAR legal clinics have used monitoring data in submissions to the UN Human Rights Council's Universal Periodic Review process, the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, and the European Court of Human Rights, to name a few. Together, we are using data to increase protection for academic freedom so that fewer scholars will face threats. Join us in these efforts. Read and share Free to Think 2020. Join our monitoring project or start a seminar or legal clinic on your campus. Join us in exposing the global phenomenon of attacks on higher education around the world. Join us in demanding that state and higher education leaders protect academic freedom and institutional autonomy. Join us in demanding protection for everyone's freedom to think, question, and share ideas. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Adam Braver, and I'm chair of the Scholars at Risk U.S. Steering Committee and the coordinator for the Scholars at Risk Student Advocacy Seminars. As students, educators, and staff committed to higher education, we also commit to being members of a community. And one central role of a community is to speak on behalf of our colleagues who find themselves voiceless, heightened even more in times of crisis, such as this pandemic, when voices are more easily silenced. This responsibility especially is true for those of us who enjoy the freedoms and privileges to work without threats of harm to our families, ourselves, or our livelihoods. Defending academic freedom is also about protecting the common good, something we presume to be enhanced by the research and intellect of our thinkers and researchers. Therefore, it is incumbent upon us to advocate for our colleagues living under threat, harassment, and/or imprisonment, for the sake of academic freedom, for the sake of our fields, and for the sake of society. In my primary capacity with Scholars at Risk, I see this work taking place on the ground level through our student advocacy seminars, where for over several years, hundreds of students have worked as advocates on behalf of imprisoned and threatened scholars across the globe, from countries such as China, Iran, Ethiopia, and Nicaragua. And these students have been raising and exercising their voices from the quads of their campuses to the offices of their elected officials. And make no mistake about it, these students and their faculty have made significant and direct impacts for both the scholars and their families, ensuring that those scholars have medical and legal support, that their voices are not silenced or forgotten, that a light continues to shine through the darkness, with hope becoming a beacon of strength and perseverance toward the rightful return to their scholarly work and a normal life. Starting in only a handful of schools in the US, the student advocacy seminars have grown worldwide. With that growth comes a stronger voice. Our efforts succeed because of the global nature of the network. We see more and more students finding ways to advocate, developing a sense of responsibility for protecting higher education, and perhaps most important, becoming regularly engaged in a global conversation about actively supporting threatened scholars. And I am committed to seeing this program expand and grow and become an essential part of what it means to be a member of the SAR network. I want to encourage students and their faculty to see their work as being something more than something that takes place within the classroom walls. Instead, to see themselves as part of the force and power that can only come out of a global network. And so with that in mind, I encourage each and every one of you to consider engaging your students in Scholars at Risk's overall mission through offering a student advocacy seminar. I hope you'll join the dozens of seminars and hundreds of past and present students who have committed themselves to protecting the imprisoned scholars, their families, and the international higher education sector. Together, as a community, and as a global network, we all benefit from raising our collective voices as one. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Agiza Kaketova. I am senior student in American University of Central Asia in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan. So this summer I was engaged in a course organized by Open Society University Network and Scholar at Risk with an aim of conducting advocacy activity to protect Uyghur scholars in China. So today I am speaking with an intention to encourage students to get involved in Scholars at Risk's advocacy seminars and clinics. And as a student, I know what kind of thoughts may come to your mind as what students can do as an individuals with no power, no connection to politics. And in the beginning, I was thinking the same, as I thought I wouldn't be able to participate or help somehow, as I am not talented enough or I don't have enough experience. However, Jahag, who is daughter of a prison scholar, Ilham Tohti, when she spoke in our class, she said, "You might think that you cannot contribute, but when you sign the petition, make a post, spread the information, or individually reject from buying from brands which use Uyghurs forced labor, you already make a great contribution." Also, imprisoned Bahraini scholars Khalil al-Halachi's daughter Fatima al-Halachi said, "Government is always listening and watching what activities are doing, and after those activities, the conditions in jail become more or less better." So what I can say to students, just be interested and remember that the ability to wholeheartedly commit yourself to something is a talent by itself, contribute and be engaged. The idea that other students all over the world and the people are doing the same makes you feel less powerless. We should remember that our actions can change the destiny of other people. So we should use our collective power to help. Talk to our professors and classmates, and in this way try to spread the information, get involved in Scholars at Risk's advocacy seminars and clinics, and help make a difference in lives of others. Don't lower your hands. You keep your future in them. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Alfred Babu. I'm professor of anthropology at Fairfield University. I'm also a member of Scholar at Risk board. Actually, I'm an alumnus of SAR when in 2012, I was removed from the war zone of my country, Ivory Coast, in West Africa. That was possible because SAR embrace this human core value of solidarity. And like SAR, other education institutions also share this value and welcome me like numerous scholars every year. One must understand that when a professor, a researcher is trapped in an oppressive political system or threatened by violence and restrictions, not only is the life of this person in danger, but she's also prevented from thinking, from teaching, from doing research. That is when academic solidarity is so powerful. When a college or a university agrees to host such a scholar, it is not only saving a life, it is also bringing back freedom to think. I personally experimented with the power of solidarity when in 2012, SAR arranged and made possible my host, my position at Smith College and at the 5 college consortium in Massachusetts Amherst. In those institutions, I retrieved the happiness of teaching, of doing research, engaging in debate with colleagues, publishing. This time helped me regain the path of my academic career and eventually to get to Fairfield University, where I am today, where I'm teaching courses like culture and political economy and refugees and culture. Like for me, SAR has strongly committed to working with many other scholars over the years. I want to share with them my hope, encourage them, and commend them for their perseverance and their dedication. I want to tell them that SAR's work is all about them. SAR will continue to expand its web across the world for the sake of protecting and advocating for scholars whose life is in danger because of their work. I want to take the chance to call the institutions, including those who helped me, and many others, to commit and join Scholars Risk Network and outstanding members. I believe that by hosting on campus or imagining any forms of virtual programs to support scholars, they can help make a difference. Thank you.
Good morning, good evening, whatever your time zone. I'm Catherine Stimson of New York University and chair of the board of Scholars at Risk. It's an enormous honor to be here, and I want to extend thanks to Rob Quinn and the SAR staff for all they have done for 20 years for the sake of scholarship and freedom of thought. My particular honor right now is to talk to you about the Courage to Think Award. Scholars at Risk created the Courage to Think Award in 2011. Why? So we could recognize individuals and groups or institutions that have demonstrated an exemplary commitment to protecting scholars, to promoting academic freedom, whether through their own professional work, through their private or community service, or by facing personal risk. And Lisa Anderson is absolutely right. One is in awe if one is safe at the risk and courage that other scholars show. Our Courage to Think Award was last presented in 2018, and it went to Turkey's Academics for Peace because they have made extraordinary efforts to build academic solidarity and to promote the principles of academic freedom, of freedom of inquiry, and the peaceful exchange of ideas. This year, 2020, what an honor it is, what a privilege it is to give the award to Dr. Rahila Dawood, to give it to Dr. Dawood for herself, in behalf of all the scholars and all the students of the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region who are struggling for academic freedom and freedom of opinion, freedom of expression, belief, association, and just the ability to move. Dr. Dawood She is a member of the Uyghur community. She is an associate professor in the Human Science Institute of Xinjiang University. She is the founder of the Minorities Folklore Research Center in Xinjiang University, and she's internationally recognized for her work on Uyghur studies. She's received awards and grants from the Chinese Ministry of Culture and the Royal Anthropological Institute of Great Britain and Ireland in 2008. And Dr. Dawood, I am sharing the screen with you right now, and your picture is the larger and more central one, as it should be. In December 2017, you told a relative of your plans to travel to Beijing. And since that time, your family and friends have lost contact with you. Your family and friends announced your disappearance in August 2018, over 2 years ago. You're suspected, or it is suspected, that you're held by state authorities at an undisclosed location. In recognizing you, Rahila Dawood, with this award, we would also like to bring attention to the hundreds of other scholars and students of minority communities who have disappeared in China and are suspected of being held, along with many thousands of persons outside of higher education, in so-called re-education camps and other detention facilities. Human rights groups estimate that there are tens of thousands to perhaps as many as 1 million people detained in these so-called re-education camps. And among those disappeared and suspected of being in state custody are a growing number of scholars, students, and other public intellectuals. Detainees are reportedly subjected to physical and psychological abuse, to beatings, to solitary confinement, to sexual harassment. They are forced to recite anthems of the Chinese Communist Party. They are forced to attend indoctrination sessions. They are forced to eat pork and drink alcohol in contravention of their religious beliefs. A large number of detainees have also reportedly been transferred from the camps and forced to work in factories across China, where they experience mistreatment similar to that which I have just noted. It is a personal agony for me to look at your picture, Dr. Dawood, and to think of you being subjected to these indignities and agonies. As in Dr. Dawood's case, state authorities have not disclosed detained scholars and students' whereabouts, whether they've been charged with criminal activity or the evidentiary basis for their detention. I am going to, in a minute, be able to introduce Dr. Dawood's daughter, Kidapulat, who will accept the award on her mother's behalf. But before then, I would like to play a video produced by Lisa Ross with Matthew Krasinski, Tage Jensen, Naima Raza, and the New York Times. We are grateful to Ms. Ross, who is a longtime friend and colleague of Dr. Dawood's, for allowing us to play this video and for her tireless efforts in advocating for the rights of the Uyghurs. A video now about this remarkable and courageous woman.
Last time I talked with my mom was December 31, 2017. My mom told me, don't try to contact with us, we will contact with you. And said, let's talk next time, let's talk next time. That was last time we ever talked to my father.
She left a message over the WeChat saying that she's going to Beijing. That's the last message she left for me.
Almost everyone that I know was taken into camps. It felt like our entire social circle was just evaporated like that overnight. My friend told me my parents are studying, but I know the word studying means relocation camp. In the one night, I lose everything.
It's torturing me of not knowing whether my mother is alive or not. I don't know what she is eating right now. I don't know what she is doing right now. Does she have enough clothes? Does the people inside of the camp or detention centers are torture her?
More than a year after my father's arrest, we received the news that he was sentenced to 15 years in prison. They fear that Uyghur people learn their own culture too much, and they fear that we have this kind of ethnic pride, and then they don't even give a reason just because there's a Uyghur Muslim.
I feel scared. Like I had nightmares of me being sent to China and got caught up into the detention centers.
Instead of being a normal human being, I was forcefully turned into a political being. When I feel homesick nowadays, the best thing I think I can do is to try to do something to help my father, try to do something to help millions of Uyghurs that are locked up in concentration camps. People who watching this video, please call your senators, ask US government to help the Uyghur peoples. It's not the relocation camp, it's the jail.
And now, though I wish we could all be together in person, but now we are together in spirit to have the extraordinary honor to present the 2020 Courage to Think Award to Rahila Dawit and to give the award to her daughter, Kidapulat. Akida, I'm so happy to see you on the screen. Your mother is the great symbol of courage, and I honor you as well as a brave and loving daughter.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for honoring this awards to my mother.
And Akida, you were holding the award. You were holding the award. I want it to be seen around the world. Again, I want to have people see a loving and courageous family, and to honor this woman, this scholar, your mother, of such courage, who took the risks and who is in our hearts and in our minds and alive in our sense of what moral action is.
Thank you so much. Today, I would like to thank Scholar at Risk from the bottom of my heart for honoring my mother with the Courage to Think award. I would like to thank you for giving me the chance to accept this award on the behalf of my mother. I would like to thank the audience here for attending this event. My name is Kidapulat. I am the daughter of Rahila Dawood, an eminent scholar of the Uyghur study and an excellent mother who has been detained by the Chinese government since December 12, 2017. Since I started to speak out in the aim of getting in touch with my mother, I got support from my mother's friends, colleagues, and the different media. I thank you all for your considerations to my mother. My mother is a professor at Xinjiang University. Born in Urumqi in 1966 to a family of intellectuals, she became one of the first Uyghur women to receive her PhD in Beijing Normal University. She was also a visiting scholar at many institutions, including the University of Pennsylvania, Indiana University, the University of Washington, and the University of California, Berkeley. She has received many awards from China's Ministry of Culture. She founded a folklore institute and shared her work in Europe and the United States, becoming a guide to many foreign scholars. My mother is a scholar, not a criminal. She studies the folklore and the cultural traditions of minority people. She promotes the culture and the history of her people. She has been doing research within the strict confinement of censorship imposed by the Chinese government. But starting from 2017, my mother and more than 100 other Uyghur intellectuals became the target of massive detentions and imprisonment. Human rights groups estimate that more than millions of people in China are detained in so-called re-education camps. Uyghurs intellectuals are detained, imprisoned, or forcibly disappeared. My mother is one of them. She disappeared in China at December 12, 2017. Since then, I haven't heard from her or talked to her. Only later did I know that she was being detained. I have an intimate relationship with my mother. I talk to her every day over the WeChat before she disappeared. I couldn't imagine a day that I wouldn't be able to talk to her anymore. Her disappearances strike me the most during the pandemic. In China, the spread of the coronavirus in the US is in the news all the time. All of my Chinese friends' parents are calling them every day, making sure that they are okay. That makes me wonder if my mother is still alive. My mom must worry about me too. She must be losing sleep, afraid that I will get coronavirus. I'm also worried about her because I can't get any information about how it might spread where she is. I don't even know if she is being protected from it or not. Today, my mother received the Courage to Think award, but she didn't have the chance to know that her hard work paid off. She can celebrate her success with her family and friends. She doesn't have the chance to know that the world is proud of her. Her disappearances devastated me, but it also gave me the courage to fight for her release. I wanted to tell the Chinese government that I will never stop advocating for her release. As the only daughter of my mother, I will continue to fight for her freedom. My voice will only grow louder day after day, and it will never diminish. In the near future, Giving this trophy to my mother and saying congratulations to my mother is my most precious dream. I hope that it will come true. Thank you.
You're muted.
Sorry. Thank you, Akita, again, for those powerful and moving remarks. Thank you for sharing your story and your mother's story and that of many other scholars and students. It is our hope that through this award, through all the people in our network seeing it and sending letters and tweets and emails about your mother's case, that we might help get you more information about her and ultimately help you to be together again. Thank you for everyone participating in this session and throughout our virtual conference and throughout SAR's first 20 years. Our successes together have been won because of you. Thank you. But we still have much work to do together. So please take action on the calls to action delivered during this conference. Join the network, host a scholar, write or tweet about a scholar in prison, start an advocacy seminar or clinic on your campus, join the monitoring project, complete and share the self-censorship survey, host a values workshop, and if you're able, please donate if you can to help us sustain and grow this work. Scholars at Risk started because of a single good intention that was acted upon again and again by thousands of people, including all of you. Let us again resolve ourselves to act on that intention together, to support our colleagues facing risk, to promote academic freedom, to defend everyone's freedom to think, question, and share ideas. Thank you. Thank you all for being a part of this. Thank you very much.
It began with a single good intention. Dear University President, I was reminded yesterday of how often university professors and students, and I suppose intellectuals more generally, become particular targets of human rights abuses. I thought too of the singularly important role that European refugees played in the intellectual development of our university in the 1930s and 1940s. Then I thought with some regret that there was little chance today of equally bright professors from Algeria or Kenya or East Timor or Bosnia or any other part of the world under intellectual or political threat finding their way to our campus. But I wonder if our university couldn't do more to increase the chances of this happening. If one of our dearest cherished values is academic freedom, and if we also pride ourselves on being one of the world's greatest universities, couldn't we make it possible for professors in exile to come to teach here, at least temporarily, at least as a first place to catch their breath and think what to do next?
I got several threats warning me to be silent.
I had to stop teaching.
The classroom was no longer safe.
After I presented my work at the international conference,
I was charged with acting against national security and spreading propaganda against the regime. I have had my teaching materials confiscated.
I had my phone and movements put under surveillance.
I have received written calls.
When you begin researching these kind of issues, you know there's a certain risk on yourself, and you accept that.
Soldiers broke into my house. I was absent, fortunately.
A couple of months later, they repeated.
if we miss you twice, you can be sure that we will get you on the third time.
When somebody threatened to kidnap my son, that was the turning point.
When I ended up at Malpas campus, it changed my life.
I was fortunate that the world took note of my case. We saw how people could trust each other.
It gave me oxygen.
This opportunity is literally a lifeline.
To return to my career.
To be silent for a scholar, that's worse than
I think I owe it to my fellow scholars to tell you that I was lucky.
I was lucky.
Words can never describe my gratitude.
To support,
advocate for,
and protect other scholars just like myself, for giving me the chance to live in freedom.
June 2000, we resolved that there should be established a permanent network of universities, colleges, and centers of research, study, and teaching. This network should dedicate itself to protecting the fundamental human rights of scholars and others engaged in the community of ideas. This network should devote its greatest energies to assisting scholars facing the most grave threats to their being and to their profession by providing positions of personal and professional sanctuary, such as to assist scholars in resuming their careers. This network should, in addition, charge itself with raising respect for academic freedom, higher education, scholarship, and the free exchange of ideas, and with promoting advocacy in defense of academic freedom and the human rights of scholars. This network should be known as
Scholars at Risk.
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 Scholars at Risk. Scholars at Risk.
Scholars at risk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.